Hello everyone, back to today's first video, doing JMA Friday for today's first video. As always on a Friday, we're going to have a detailed look at the weather for the month ahead. Just to say that the ECMWF 30-day forecast is going to be Tuesday only. I won't be doing it Tuesday and Friday, because I thought it might get a bit repetitive and it might sort of conflict with JMA Friday to some degree. So the ECMWF 30-day look ahead will be every Tuesday. So this coming Tuesday will be the next EC 30-day update. So we're having a look at the Japanese and CFS V2 models right now for the next month. It's going to take us well on into June. We don't quite get to the end of June yet, but we go well on into June with this update. Being very warm, of course, through May. And we'll see whether these warm conditions are likely to continue into June as well. Just to say that the second video coming up later on today will be the ENSO update for May. So we're going to have a look at what's happening with El Nino, La Nina, all of that kind of thing in the equatorial Pacific Ocean. So that'll be coming up around 5 o'clock. And then this evening around 7 o'clock, we will have one final update for the late spring bank holiday weekend, bringing to an end, of course, the late spring bank holiday updates. But starting it all off is going to be JMA Friday. So we're going to have a look at the 500 millibar height anomaly flowcharts from the Japanese Meteorological Agency long-range model. These are broken down into weekly periods, and they're from the North Pole view down. So that's the North Pole of the Northern Hemisphere just there, and then the mid-latitudes of the Northern Hemisphere are around there. Yellow, orange and red will be extrapolating to high pressure, and blue will be extrapolating to low pressure. So we find that for the weekend, this takes us from today, the 25th of May through to 1st of June, we find that we have an area of above average heights over and going out to the east of the country as well, with below average heights down to the south and also to the west and to the northwest of the country. The flow on the jet will be doing something rather like that, so a lot of warm weather coming up with that. The jet stream is in that sort of position, so we will be bringing in plenty of east to southeasterly winds, so could really be very warm at times, maybe even hot at times through the weekend. Of course, this trough of below average heights to the south would be threatening thunderstorms to southern parts of the country. We go through to week 2. This takes us through the first week of June. So we go from the 1st through to the 8th of June. With this one, and looks very settled. Above average heights are still centering themselves over and ever so slightly to the north of the British Isles. So we will begin June, if this is right, on a very settled and warm note. Low pressure is out there and up there, so the flow and the jet is doing something rather like that. We remain on the warm side of the jet stream with high pressure close to the country. I think again we would have a lot of dry, fine and warm weather. Probably slightly less of a thunder risk as well, because that high pressure looks like it's centred more or less over top of the UK there. But then we get a big change. We go through to weeks 3 and 4, which takes us from the 8th through to the 22nd of June. And look at this, real changes. We push that area of above average heights out into the middle of the Atlantic. And then we get below average heights centering over the UK and also to our north. So this is seeing the jet stream plunging southwards. The jet stream will be plunging south. We will probably be going onto the cool side of the jet, doing something like that with the jet stream. And that just looks a lot more unsettled, and it looks a lot cooler as well as we're going deeper in towards June. So after a prolonged spell of warm weather, that really takes us back to something much cooler and much more unsettled as we go through into the middle 2 weeks of June. So that's weeks 3 and 4. It's a 2-weekly anomaly. It might be a little bit transitional, although for a 2-weekly anomaly, which is normally quite a weak anomaly on these charts, for a 2-week anomaly, that's quite a strong signal actually. So I assume the change must be happening quite early in week 3 and then persisting through to week 4, because we're not got a situation where we've got a weak signal and the 2 weeks are offsetting one another, actually that's quite a strong signal for weeks 3 and 4. So I assume a change must happen quite early in week 3, and it must continue well into week 4. So let's have a look at the tropical and mid-latitude view in terms of temperature and precipitation anomalies that go with those heights. British Isles just here in the top right-hand corner of the chart as you're looking at it. Reminder of the 500 millibar height anomaly for the coming week, for week 1, 25th of May through to 1st of June, with above average heights over the UK and also up to the northeast as well. We're bringing in the wind from a southeasterly or easterly type direction, so it looks very warm. This trough of below average heights around Spain could be threatening thunder from sort of France and the Bay of Biscay. So looking at the temperature anomaly in the week ahead, it's very warm. We've got those yellow and orange colours over the UK and across much of Europe as well. It will be a very warm, potentially at times quite hot week coming up, especially over the bank holiday weekend down in the south. We could see temperatures into the upper 20s Celsius. And what about precipitation? That looks like that. So it's a mainly dry week coming up, a drier than average week coming up, but you'll notice to our south there's a lot of blue down here around the Bay of Biscay, and also if we go over there towards France. So this tells us that there will be thunder to our south, and at times those thunderstorms will be threatening southern parts of the country in particular. This is how week 2 is looking, with above average heights still centering themselves over the top of the UK. This time more centred slightly to the north of the country, though, should keep us very warm and dry again. Actually, the temperature anomaly in week 2 isn't as warm as it is in week 1. It still is coming out generally a little bit above average, but clearly the colours are much paler, so they're back closer to average compared to what we have in week 1. So still warmer than average, yes, still a warm start to June. First week of June still shaping up to be warm, but not as warm as the final week of May. And as far as the precipitation anomaly is concerned, that again is coming out drier than average. And then we go through to weeks 3 and 4, and this is where we've got that change taking place. We're losing the high pressure signal, we're pushing that out into the centre of the Atlantic, and we've got below average heights coming through the country like that, with a dip in the jet stream seemingly within the 500 millibar flow. So the temperature anomaly is becoming a lot cooler. We're going cooler than average here through the middle 2 weeks of June. Definitely a deterioration taking place in the temperature anomaly, unless of course you don't like warm weather, and not everybody likes warm weather, so for those people it won't be a deterioration, it'll be good news. But generally it looks like we're going cooler than average through the 8th through to the 22nd of June. And as far as precipitation is concerned, still holding up close to average. It is more unsettled, so we're not talking about a deluge coming through here, we're not talking about a washout, just beginning to turn a little bit wetter. We have got blue colours close to the country, so going a little bit above average in places with the rainfall, but not a very wet period being signalled here for weeks 3 and 4. The main thing is the drop in the temperature and the change to the overall sort of weather pattern, which does look a good deal more unsettled. So let's see what the CFS V2 has to say. Again, these are 500 millibar heights. They're broken down into week periods. The first week period takes us from the 25th through to the 31st of May, with above average heights, again, very, very close to the country, generally centred a little bit to our east and northeast. We've got below average heights to the south and also in around Greenland. So the flow and the jet stream is generally doing something like that, but we might be bringing in an east to southeasterly flow of this trough of below average heights could be threatening thunder to southern parts of the country in the week ahead. Week 2 looks like that. Perfect agreement between these two models for the first week of June. This is from the 1st through to the 7th of June, with again the above average heights centred almost over top of the UK. The jet stream is going off up there somewhere, so again a lot of dry and warm to very warm weather expected through the first week of June. Then we're through to the third week of June. Remember, this is when the JMA is starting to turn more unsettled and cooler. So this is the 8th through to the 14th of June. And it does look as though the high pressure is weakening. We still have a lot of ridging close to us. We've got above average height centred to our east. We've got above average height centred to the west and the northwest up there. Below average heights are down here. So it all looks a bit messy, and this could be where things are beginning to break down. So possibly the below average heights are beginning to push some thundering conditions up from the south, and also maybe a bit of a dip in the jet stream starting to become apparent, doing something like that with the flow. So just generally breaking down the high pressure there through the second week of June, and then that takes us to the third week of June, the fourth week I should say, of June, which is the 15th to the 21st of June. And it looks more unsettled then. We've got the above average heights close to Greenland, below average heights to our southwest, and also a little bit to the north as well. So it looks like very gradually we're probably developing a dip within the 500 millibar flow. And it's not a quick process, but we are probably breaking down the high pressure and turning things increasingly unsettled there as we're going into the middle part of June. Temperature anomalies look like that, so the week ahead with CFS V2 from the 25th through to the 31st of May coming out warmer than average, substantially so across the UK and most of Europe, coming out really warm as well. Then we go through to week 2, which is the 1st through to the 7th of June. That also comes out substantially warmer than average across the UK and most of Europe, so really warm for the next couple of weeks. Week 3 continues it as well, so significantly warmer than average from the 8th through to the 14th of June. And then we go through to the 15th to the 21st of June, still on the warmer than average side, but clearly as we're going along here, we are weakening that warmer than average signal. So it's gradually beginning to see a return to nearer normal temperature anomalies. It's not going cooler than average, not like the JMA is doing for this week 3-4 period, but the temperature anomaly is reducing and is returning back closer to average. As far as precipitation is concerned, so the week ahead looks significantly drier than average for the north, but a little bit wetter than average for the south, and that would be primarily down to thunderstorms across France pushing northwards. The week 2 precipitation anomaly looks like that. Overall, a little bit drier than average in most parts of the country as that high pressure becomes centred over top of the UK through the first week of June. Then week 3, it's close to average with the precipitation anomaly. Week 4 is also close to average, possibly hinting at being a little bit on the wetter than average side to our south and to our southwest. The idea, of course, is that weeks 1 and 2 are very dry, then weeks 3 and 4 becoming out close to average. Clearly a change is beginning to take place to more unsettled conditions. So we have got agreement between the two models for June. We start, well, let's deal with May first of all. They're both in agreement it's going to be a really warm end to May, but it could be a little bit wet in the south from thunder. The first week of June is looking mainly primarily warm and dry, and then we go through to that critical phase through the middle 2 weeks of June, which is weeks 3 and 4. Both models are agreeing that it's turning more unsettled. They are disagreeing how unsettled it's going to get, and they're also disagreeing just how much the temperature is going to drop, but clearly more unsettled, and so a cooler and a rather wetter couple of weeks then beginning to develop through the middle part of June. And then of course we've got to wait and see where that takes us. Is that just a temporary sort of breakdown to the unsettled, to the settled and warm conditions? Is it just a temporary breakdown and we quickly get back to high pressure, very warm conditions? Or is it something more fundamental? As I've said in my videos before, very often you can get protracted spells of very warm and dry weather through May and into early June, but then you can get a deterioration. And when that happens, sometimes it can run and run through the rest of the summer. So essentially you get your summer in May, and then once it's gone, it's gone. So I wouldn't necessarily say that's what's going to happen here, because we have no evidence of that. We can only go to the middle of June. with these two models. They do look more unsettled by that point, but it's possible it's just a brief temporary interruption to the dry and warm weather, and then we'll quickly get back to the anticyclonic signals again. So we're going to have to wait and see, but it's all looking quite interesting for June. It certainly starts off very warm and dry, and then possibly turns cooler and more unsettled. Coming up later today, we've got the ENSO update, and we'll have a final look at the late spring bank holiday weekend tonight. Loads of updates coming up over the bank holiday weekend. So tomorrow we're going to have a week ahead forecast for you, but we'll begin by having the third and final seasonal model roundup for the summer of 2018. So that will be a really interesting video idea. I've already recorded it, and there have been changes from the long range models since last month's second update, so you'll see that as tomorrow's first video. On Sunday, we've got a big day on Sunday. We've got the summer forecast coming up. We're going to have Gazworthy's Sunday Roundup, and we'll also have a little sneak peek for the autumn, because that's where the long-range bandwagon will roll on to once we get the summer forecast out to you. And then on Bank Holiday Monday, we're going to have a historic video, as always, on a bank holiday. We'll have a historic video. This time we're looking at the summer of 1959. So loads going on at website over weekend. Do keep checking back for more. That's all for now, and thanks for watching.